Yeah. Okay, so welcome everyone again. And my name is Sierra, if you don't already know me, and this is
I'm
Molly, and we are the co-founders of Cultivate Balance, and we work and serve our clients out of Boulder, Colorado, where we also studied at Alandi Ashram under Alakananda Ma. We are both clinical Ayurvedic practitioners, so that is what we bring to this scene. We are so excited to get to share Ayurveda in every capacity, just because we feel so strongly that this wisdom is so wildly powerful for us to understand ourselves better, to understand the world around us better, to understand each other better. And the more we can fine tune our relationship to ourselves and to the rhythms and elements of nature, the more accessible true deep wellness becomes. So
and the better able we are to take care of ourselves, the better we feel, the more energized we feel, the better we can show up to our families, our communities, and the planet. So taking care of yourself in this moment and learning about your wellness and your needs with us right now is actually a service to everyone who gets the privilege of interacting with you.
True. Yes. So thank you all so much for showing up and being here with us. We really honor you and appreciate you supporting our work.
Yes.
So this workshop is going to be 60 to 90 minutes. We're not entirely sure how long. We've given ourselves 90 minutes. And in it, we are going to give just a brief overview of Ayurveda. If you already know about Ayurveda, hopefully it'll just be a little review. We'll give you an overview of the Ayurvedic qualities and how they relate to the doshas. And then we'll go through a quick synopsis of each of the doshas. And then we're going to, for anyone who doesn't know, talk about Prakriti and Vikriti, so the inherent constitution and the current state of imbalance. And then we're going to talk about the paradigm of 3 seasons, which is what's spoken about in Ayurveda. And then so that's just going to sort of set a little container. We'll go through that all pretty quickly. And then we're going to get into the seasons and what spring season means in particular. I just felt a raindrop.
Ooh, let's see.
That'll be fun. The spring season means in particular, one of those things is wet.
That's true.
So happy spring. We'll talk about what conditions might arise during the spring season, and then how you can apply the opposite qualities that are present during spring to keep yourself healthy. So that means light and resilient and, even grounded, some of these positive qualities of Kapha. So follow along with the worksheet. We'll give you little reminders along the way. If you're here live, you'll have the worksheet. If you don't have the worksheet, you can find it on our website at learn.cultivatebalance.com, and under virtual workshops, you'll find a link to it somewhere.
Yep. That's right.
Okay.
So
should we dive in?
Bring up the presentation.
Oh, yep. Great.
All right.
Oops. Can you guys still see us, I wonder? Let's just make sure.
Yes.
Share screen. Why is it giving me that option? Here we go. Okay.
Great. All right.
Okay.
So get activated. Soulful Ayurveda for your spring detox. You already know that's why we're all here. We're here to talk about Ayurveda in the spring and what that means. And as Sierra mentioned, Ayurveda is really about aligning with the rhythms and elements and understanding how our external surroundings affect our internal experience of wellness and balance. So what is Ayurveda? You maybe already know, you maybe have an inclination, or if you're new to Ayurveda, we'll just tell you a little bit about it now. Ayurveda is a very ancient holistic healing science from India. It dates back about 5,000 or 6,000 years. And it's pretty interesting because it's said that the ancient rishis, that's a word for seers, these people who sat in meditation received the wisdom of Ayurveda through meditation, through hours and hours and hours of meditation. And for a long time, it was passed on as an oral tradition. So they would share it by word of mouth. It was eventually put into writing, and make some of its early appearances in the Vedas, ancient Sanskrit texts, specifically the Rig Veda. If you've heard of that, that one comes up in yoga communities a bit. If you've studied yoga at all, you've heard of that. And so then those ancient texts were eventually translated into English, and that is what we studied from, and that's why we're able to share Ayurveda with all of you. So it's a pretty incredible, special ancient lineage. And the cool thing about it being 5,000 or 6,000 years old is that it really proves its efficacy through all those years of case studies and really honing in on the remedies and the formulas and the lifestyle to come up with the practices that we use now. Very, very special.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about realigning with the rhythms and elements of nature. And then treatment focuses on diet, daily routine. There's herbal remedies. There's really luscious practices like oil massage and all sorts of things that generally feel really great.
It's also referred to as the science of longevity. So there's this component of preventative wellness in Ayurveda that ultimately helps us not only feel better, but live longer.
Yes.
And it's really about bringing ourselves back into balance. So that'll be a key theme that we're talking about throughout the webinar today is
cultivating balance.
Cultivating balance. So what qualities, what imbalances come up in the spring? How might we experience them, and what can we do to bring ourselves back into balance? That's really the key understanding of all Ayurveda, and that is what Sierra is going to tell us about now.
Yes, and this is an actual photo of the rishis, the seers from 5,000 years ago. Just so you know.
She loves that joke.
Okay, so before we get into the doshas, which you may have already heard of, we're going to talk just a little bit about the gunas. So we're going to dial it back even further. We're going to start even smaller than those doshas. So if you think about the world around you and you think about yourself, you can start to think about the world being organized in terms of qualities, which is what we call gunas. So it's basically that the world is described in pairs of opposites. So if you think about hot, cold, soft, hard, these are opposite qualities that exist around us and within us at all times. The ancient texts of Ayurveda actually classify these in 10 pairs of opposites. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anything. So it's 20 gunas total. And here they are all laid out for you. And so theoretically, according to the ancient texts, these 10 pairs of opposites or 20 gunas could describe anything in our whole universe. So there's heavy and light, dull or slow and sharp, cold and hot, oily or dry, smooth and slimy or rough, solid or liquid, soft or hard, stable and static or mobile and spreading, subtle or tangible and dense, and clear or cloudy and sticky.
And bear in mind that these are translations from Sanskrit. So if you're like, I don't know, I wouldn't use the word sticky to describe my experience. We're taking the closest translations that we could find from these ancient texts. And if you look at all of them, it really does basically cover most of what you would need to describe your experience. So even if you're like, that's a little strange, it works.
Totally. And you can start to, it takes maybe a little bit of practice to start thinking about the world in terms of these particular words, but really come back to this because like Molly said, you can really start to use them. And once you do, and hopefully throughout this presentation, you'll start to understand exactly how to start to map them on to things like the climate or food or a physical experience inside your body or something that you're engaging with, like the ground, you can start to think about that. So as we start to practice this right now, maybe start to think about what the qualities of melting snow are. So it's springtime right now. We might be witnessing some melting snow, and that can help us get in touch with what the qualities might be of springtime. So you might start to think heavy, right? You can think about that. Spring snow is really heavy, right? When it melts, it creates liquid, and it's also very cold oftentimes, right? So those are some of the qualities of melting snow, which may be present right now. What are some of the qualities you might think of when you think of jogging? Might be a little different. So that's more of an activity. Jogging is going to be quick, light, rough are some qualities that might describe jogging. And then what are some qualities of hot sauce, right? So of food, getting into thinking about how you can describe qualities or food in terms of qualities. So you might think of it as hot, right? It's hot sauce. It's also usually liquid. It kind of spreads out across your food. So that's a way you can start practicing, just thinking about how these qualities show up in your life. Anything to add?
No, I think that's great. Just knowing that the qualities are for everything: food, activities, the environment, yourself. So that's why we gave sort of a range of examples.
Yep, exactly. So how can these qualities support you in your experience? So the key concept to think about here is that opposite qualities decrease one another while like increases like. So this very simple concept is actually one of the foundational healing concepts in Ayurveda. And if you can start to think in terms of balancing opposites, you basically have the keys to your success and wellness.
That's true.
So Ayurveda is always working to pair these opposites to encourage balance. So if you can loosely identify what qualities are present in any experience that you're having, you can just apply the opposite, any substances or activities that have the opposite qualities. So for example, if you've ever felt depressed, which is like a very heavy, like static experience, right? You're like depressed, you're like sunk on the couch and like not feeling very, animated. And then you went and ate ice cream, which is also a heavy, sticky, cold experience. Then you're actually doing like increases like, and you're going to encourage more of that depression. So even if you eat ice cream for a little bit, you get like that real quick satisfaction. You're ultimately going to feel more depressed because depression and ice cream actually share a lot of the same qualities, that heavy, sticky, stable, solid, dense qualities.
Yes.
Do you want to add something to that?
No, that's perfect.
Well, on the contrary, if you've ever felt depressed and then you decide to go on a jog, we just talked about the qualities of jogging, right? So light, quick, rough, those are the opposite qualities of depression. So that's going to be the opposite qualities to balance out the qualities of depression. So it's going to encourage you to feel happier and lighter and more joyful. So that's basically the whole foundational concept of Ayurveda. And if you can start to think in those terms, you're always going to be able to bring yourself back into balance. And that's going to be a foundational concept as we move into talking about spring and what qualities are present during spring and what qualities you can bring in to make yourself feel your absolute best.
And it's really an empowering tool. This is where the idea of preventative wellness comes in. So the moment you feel that sort of like heaviness of an emotion like depression seeping in, you do a balancing activity so that it doesn't manifest in a full-fledged lasting depression, for example. So it's a cool opportunity to notice imbalances as they arise and just apply the qualities you need before it becomes something bigger and more uncomfortable.
Yes. So then how do these gunas combine to create the doshas? What are doshas?
Doshas are basically types of energy. We use them in Ayurveda as language to describe different mind-body types, but also to just describe sort of everything around us, just like we use the gunas, the qualities, to describe our experience. So in Ayurveda, we have these three energy types. They're called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Those are the doshas. Maybe you've heard of them before. Maybe you even know which one relates to you most. That's great. If you don't, that's okay. You might get an idea of which one relates to you most as we talk about them a bit. So the doshas are basically combinations of the 5 elements. And something I love about Ayurveda is that it uses the language of the elements to describe our experience. And as a result, it's more like intuitive and inclusive rather than using words that you've never heard of that you then have to memorize and attach a definition to in your mind. You can sort of start to understand like, oh, Pitta is a fiery constitution, which we'll talk about. What might that mean? How can I relate to that? It's more intuitive. So the three doshas are a combination of the 5 elements. Let's break that down a little bit more. So Vata dosha is a combination of the air and space or ether elements. So it's like the wind. It's the lightest dosha. And then we have Pitta dosha, which is a combination of fire and a little bit of water, but you can mostly think of it as the fiery dosha. And then we have Kapha dosha, which is a combination of the earth and water elements, and it is the densest dosha. Okay, so let's talk about them individually. So Vata, as I mentioned, it's a combination of ether and space, or ether and air. Ether and space can be used synonymously, so take whichever one you prefer. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, Vata is like the wind. It embodies the energy of movement. It is light and airy and rising. The qualities, the gunas that describe Vata are cold, dry, light, rough, mobile, clear, and subtle. Okay, that's Sierra talked about the gunas already. You know those. So then the opposite qualities of Vata, of sort of the air and space, are hot, oily, heavy, smooth, static, cloudy, and dense or tangible. So as you can see, Vata shares the qualities of the wind, of air and space. So then Pitta dosha is a combination of fire and water. Think of it mostly like fire. It embodies the energy of transformation. The qualities that describe Pitta dosha are hot, sharp, light, liquid or spreading like lava, mobile, and oily. The opposite qualities, so these are the qualities that would be balancing for Pitta, are cold, slow, heavy, dense, static, and dry. So Pitta shares the qualities of fire and water. Mm-hmm. And then Kapha is like clay. It's like the earth. It's like where earth and water meet. And it embodies the energy of building and lubrication and holding structure. The qualities of Kapha are heavy, slow, cold, oily, smooth, static, and cloudy. And the opposite balancing qualities are light, sharp, hot, rough, mobile, clear, and subtle. And the more that we understand how the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, manifest in and around us, the more we can appreciate ourselves and the more we can start to understand what it takes to bring ourselves and keep ourselves in balance. Mm-hmm. And so those qualities that I just mentioned for Kapha are really going to come into play throughout this presentation. Yes. So we'll come back to those many times.
Kapha in mind. Okay, so real quick, it's important to always keep in mind what your prakriti is. What is your prakriti? It is your inherent constitution. And what that means is that the doshas come together in every individual in an extraordinarily unique composition of the 3 doshas. So it's basically as unique as your thumbprint, and it's actually determined at the time of your conception based on the health of your parents, the constitution of your parents, the way the stars aligned, the season at the time, the weather that day. I mean, there's like everything in the cosmos comes together to determine what your inherent constitution is, what your inherent combination of the 3 doshas in your body is. And it's energetic and it's also physical. So it determines everything, so much about you, from the conditions that express as disorder in your body, to the way your mind operates, to the way you engage with the world, to what your most powerful qualities in terms of your strengths are. So that your prakriti or your inherent constitution tells us and you so much about you, including how to best stay in balance. Once you understand which doshas have a stronger predominance in your constitution and what qualities are associated with those doshas, then you'll always know which qualities or dosha is more likely to go out of balance in your system, because the higher the dosha in your system, the more likely that dosha is to go out of balance. So you want to kind of keep an eye on it. So how do you figure out what your inherent constitution is? You can see an Ayurvedic practitioner. We can read your pulses and ask you all sorts of questions to find out what your inherent constitution is. And or you can go take a quiz on our website. It's called the Mind Body Quiz. What is it actually called? Oh, how to explain myself. So you can find it on our at cultivatebalance.com under free and then quizzes. If you haven't yet taken that quiz, definitely go take it. Always answer from thinking about the history of your entire life, not any current imbalances. Like think back to your childhood. And it'll tell you a lot about who you are. That you probably already knew, and and it'll also give you an opportunity to love certain qualities about yourself that you may have taken for granted. So definitely knowing your Prakriti is very helpful.
Yeah, totally. All right, so you have your Prakriti, which Sierra just talked about. That is your constitution from birth. It's your ratio of doshas that does not change throughout your life. And then you have your Vikriti, which is your present state of imbalance amongst the doshas. So your Vikriti is basically what tells you like, oh, your Pitta is out of balance. Oh, Vata is too high. Kapha is increased when you felt depressed and you ate ice cream, for example. And Vikriti is really interesting because it can change sort of from day to day. So Prakriti never changes. Vikriti is in a constant state of flux because we are living in relation to a world around us. We're taking in different qualities all the time, like cold weather or spicy food, all of which is then impacting our experience of balance or imbalance. And so what else do I need to say about Vikriti? Just basically, when you start to pay attention to which doshas are getting out of balance, this is an opportunity to bring yourself back into balance before more deep disease manifests, which we sort of mentioned earlier. And this is the opportunity that you have in the springtime, and this is what we're going to talk about now. What preventative measures can you take to keep your Vikriti down, to keep the Kapha specifically down in your present state of imbalance, because Kapha is more likely to get imbalanced in the spring.
Exactly. And you'll notice that all of the conditions that can show up in springtime share the same qualities, which are Kaphic qualities, as spring does. So now we're going to dive into the seasons so you can understand exactly what qualities show up during each season. And you'll see how it's important to keep the qualities in mind for each season so that you don't throw your Vikriti out of balance.
Yes. And also, if you have the worksheet pulled up, you're welcome to look at it right now and just take a moment to match the gunas.
Yeah, I think that's the main.
Match the qualities, and you can also circle the Kapha conditions that apply to you, right?
Yeah. If you have, we're going to talk a little bit more about what conditions might show up in just a second, but if you have the worksheet and you want to think ahead about what conditions are showing up for you now, those are there and you can start circling them. And when she says match the qualities, it's about matching the opposites.
The qualities that balance each other. And I also just want to mention that what we've just talked about, the doshas, Ayurveda, Prakriti, Vikriti, all of that is foundational Ayurvedic concepts. If you want to learn more about the foundations of Ayurveda, we have a course called The Art of Ayurveda, and that will give you a lot more information on what we just briefly touched on now.
Yeah, it's vast. But that sets the stage to understand all of the concepts that are to come. So from now on, in this workshop, we are going to focus on the seasons, what conditions show up during each season, specifically Kapha season, which is spring. And then I didn't mention this before, but we're going to walk you through the Khichdi cleanse, which is springtime is the best time to do it, to clear out that Kapha. So basically the key concept here, knowing that in Ayurveda, it's all about realigning with the rhythms and elements of nature, right? So one of the things that that means is about paying attention to the seasons and what qualities or what elements, essentially what doshas, are manifesting during each of the 3 seasons. So spring is Kapha season, and Kapha season occurs when the weather embodies the majority of qualities related to Kapha, right? So that is the heavy, the cold in the beginning, the dense, the wet, the static. It's really thinking about damp earth, right? It's like it is coming back to life, so there is a quality of resiliency for sure. But it's also it's a heavy, slow moving season. Let's see.
And in at least Colorado, where we live, we would say the spring season is from March to May. And we're specifying that because Ayurveda groups the seasons into 3 to align with the doshas rather than 4, which we do here in the West.
Yep. Okay. So then Pitta season, just so you know, is summer. It's when the weather embodies the majority of qualities that are associated with Pitta. So you think of that as like hot, sharp, light, liquid. Think about activities and moods that you're in the summer season, right? Very
moods.
Pitta.
Think of your summer moods.
Fire. In Colorado, this season occurs June through September, according to Ayurveda. And then fall, winter is essentially grouped together as one, and it is Vata season. And that's when the weather embodies the majority of qualities that Vata embodies. So cold, rough, dry, and mobile. So you think about the crunchy leaves and the wind, and it starts to get really cold at the end of fall. Well, really through winter. It can be very dry. Here in Colorado is really one of the qualities of the Vata season. And in Colorado, this season is quite long. It's from October to February. So yeah, it's a hard one for Vatas here in Colorado.
Yeah.
So that's the breakdown of the seasons.
So now we're going to talk more specifically about spring in Colorado. But if you're in our hemisphere, then we're talking about your spring season also. It won't, if you're in LA, for example, your spring won't be quite as cold as ours, but it will be cold relative to your Pitta season. So just note that this still does apply to your experience. So let's think about how the spring season influences our bodies and what we are most likely to experience in this season. First of all, the qualities of spring are the same qualities of Kapha dosha. So again, Kapha dosha is made up of the earth and water elements, and the qualities that we would use to describe spring and Kapha dosha are cool, wet or liquid, heavy, slow, smooth, static, and stable. So the conditions that are most likely to arise during Kapha season are conditions that could also be described with some of those qualities that I've just listed. Right. And so what conditions might show up during this time? Let's think about that just a little bit. What conditions do you think are heavy? I'm going to list a few. So let's just like brainstorm for a moment. What conditions might you think of as heavy? We already talked about one. I'll give you a hint. Depression. What conditions might be like static or slimy in your body? What conditions are cold? Start to think about what types of imbalances might arise during Kapha season. Okay, so
liquid.
Yeah.
Did you say liquid?
I didn't.
Yeah.
But yes.
There's a lot of liquid going on.
Okay, so physical conditions that might show up during Kapha season. Low energy. You can think of how that's sort of heavy and slow and static, like earth and water. Heaviness, lethargy, a fullness in your stomach that's sort of prolonged. Low appetite, cold or congestion, coughs, mucus, allergies, nausea, water retention, weight gain, prolonged menstrual cycle can actually happen during Kapha season, cystic, acne, which you can think of as like stickier and dense, intense sugar cravings, candida imbalances, as well as itch on the skin. All of those are imbalances or conditions or challenges that we associate with Kapha and that are more likely to occur in the Kapha season. On a mental emotional level, things that might arise during Kapha season would be depression, which we've already mentioned. Also, greed can come up, brain fog, low motivation, low inspiration. Those things can all happen.
So this is a good moment. If you have the worksheet, again, you can now really think about what might be showing up for you or what you know you're prone to during this season, and circle those so that you have them in the back of your mind throughout the rest of the workshop.
Yes. So let's talk about signs of Kapha thriving in Kapha season. Because just like any dosha, Kapha has amazing qualities too. It has its tendencies toward imbalance, and it also has so many beautiful components to it. So the idea is that we can actually harness the great qualities of Kapha during the spring to feel our very best. So one of the strengths of Kapha is that it's very stable, like the earth, which can result in a feeling of more groundedness, of feeling emotionally steady, feeling calm, feeling resilient, which Sierra mentioned earlier. And a stable mind actually results in improved memory. Kapha dosha is really excellent for harnessing long-term memory. And a stable body results in immunity and resiliency. So that is all available to us right now, more than other times of the year. More stability is available to you and to us right now. Another quality of Kapha is that it's oily. And in Ayurveda, oily is actually synonymous with love. And so Kapha is really supportive of compassion and patience and inclusivity and forgiveness. This oily quality also increases libido and fertility, as well as it strengthens hair, skin, and nails. So that's another great strength
Benefit,
of Kapha.
beauty,
right
and
now.
libido.
Beauty and libido. Yes. Let's see.
So when Kapha is in balance, you get to experience all of these. And so it's really important to keep Kapha nourished and in balance, just making sure that it doesn't go over the top.
Right. Yes.
So if you have your worksheet in front of you now, you'll see down below the conditions, there are, there's an opportunity to write down an affirmation. So what would you like to feel during Kapha season? How would you like to leverage or harness these energies of Kapha to feel your best? What can you do? What do you need right now? So think about that for just a moment and jot that down. If you don't have the worksheet, you can write it down in a journal or just on a piece of paper.
Think about it in your mind.
Think about it in your mind.
Write it down later.
That's true, because we're harnessing Kapha for memory right now.
You're not going to forget.
Okay. So as you know, one of the key principles for healing in Ayurveda is to apply the opposite qualities to maintain balance. So to keep Kapha in balance, what we're going to do is apply the qualities of light, sharp, hot, dry, rough, mobile, clear, and subtle. So that kind of sounds like a lot, and maybe you're not super familiar with what those qualities mean, but just know that they are very intentionally woven throughout all of the practices that we're going to share with you over the next few minutes. But to distill it into something that makes a little bit more sense to our brains or relatable right now, it's basically to keep Kapha in check. You're going to warm up, get moving, and stay engaged. And we're going to go through exactly what that means and a few key practices that you can do to do just that.
Oh, I missed. Great. Thank you. Oh, where is it?
Here.
Great. So one of the first key practices, can you keep that there for me? Thank you. One of the first key practices to support Kapha in Kapha season is to warm up. Because Kapha is cold, that's one of the dominant qualities or gunas that can describe Kapha. It can result in weakness or rigidity or slow stagnation. because that's what the cold quality does, if it's not activated by heat. So you can warm up kapha by adding spices to your meal, like ginger, cumin, black pepper, basil. You can also just eat fewer cold, heavy foods like dairy, gluten, ice water. All of those things are received as cold in the body. Drinking ginger tea is another way to warm up your body. Spending time in the sun.
Here we are.
Here we are in the golden hour. And you can also activate your body with the heat from friction by doing a practice called dry brushing, which we're going to elaborate more on right now.
We love this practice.
We love it.
But yeah, think about all the ways you can warm up. Those are just a few ways, but just always keep in the back of your mind, what tools do you have in your life for warming up? It's key right now, especially in the earlier phases of spring, especially. Okay, so Garshana is the Sanskrit term for dry brushing, and this is definitely one of our favorite practices. We are Kapha ladies, and this really helps us get activated, get warm, and get the blood flowing. All times of year, really, less so in the fall because that is a Vata season, but really this is the season to do dry brushing. So what is it? It is, you take one of these dry brushes, or this is like a natural bristle brush, or you can use silk gloves like the ones that are shown on the screen there. You can also use like a terry cloth, sort of like a washcloth, and basically you're going to run this over your skin. So the reason why we have a few different tools that you can use is that this bristle brush is a little bit more rough. So that's why it's great for Kapha. Kapha's skin is usually a bit thicker and more kind of like sturdy, so it can handle this really rather rough brush. But if you are a Vata or a Pitta, you likely have a bit more sensitive skin, and that's when you would want to use the silk gloves that are shown on the screen, or like a terry cloth washcloth, and do something a little bit more gentle. But basically the idea is that you would take the brush or the gloves and you would run it over your skin in sort of short, quick strokes, just like this. And you would start at your extremities, so at your fingers and your toes, and always working inward toward your digestive system and your heart. So you're always bringing the blood back toward your heart, and you're always bringing the toxins back toward your digestive system so that they can be eliminated. So you're doing genius. I didn't think of it. It's genius. So you're doing short strokes on your long bones, and then you're doing round motions on your joints. Okay, so long strokes like this on your long bones, or short strokes, but straight strokes on your long bones, and then round circular strokes on your joints. Okay, so then you're going to do this all the way in. You're going to get right in your armpits, right? There's a lot of lymph in there, and this is a great way to get lymph flowing. Again, it's about getting moving. That's going to increase your immunity if you can get your lymph flowing better and better. I love getting it in here and behind as well. Really taking a shower up here.
I just know that you love that because every time you do a demo, you like pause
really
for that.
Get in there.
Just moving that lymph, baby girl.
I also love getting like on my thighs and my hips right here, because this is, so cellulite is essentially Kapha. It's a little bit of a Kapha imbalance. It's not a bad thing, but it is Kapha embodied. And so if cellulite is something that concerns you, using a dry brush can actually help move that Kapha as well. Let's see what else. So then once you get to your digestive, once you've moved all the way into the center, you can use the dry brush or the gloves on your abdomen, and when you're looking down, do it in a clockwise motion, and this is going to help support peristalsis and digestion to help move your toxins right on out. So the other beauty of this is that it sloughs off dead skin cells, so it's going to leave your skin just like more bright and glowing. I talked about the immune function, and the other thing is this is a great springtime practice, all about getting activated, because it is a very activating practice, and so you'll want to do it in the morning, not at night before you go to bed, because right when you wake up is the time where you're just wanting to get activated.
So you could do it like before a shower. That's a great time to do it. And in other seasons, you might find that it doesn't feel as good for you to do this as much. Like Sierra mentioned, as it gets colder outside and Vata season embodies the rough qualities, dry brushing might be too rough. So Kapha type people might do dry brushing 1 or 2 times a week in the winter, whereas Vatas and Pittas might do it once a month or not at all until we come back around to the spring where they feel more more of a need for that.
Yeah, and I've never thought of this before, but like, since it is a sort of heating practice, doing it in the summer and creating that friction is probably too much during Pitta season as well.
It could be
like
intense.
very heating.
So it's just during Kapha season is really the time to do dry brushing every day if you want to and you're excited about it. After Kapha season, it's probably not an everyday practice for most people, but sort of check in with your body. And if you're experiencing a lot of Kapha in the Pitta season, you might do it a little more.
Yeah, it's a great thing. If you ever feel lethargic in the morning, to do dry brushing can really wake you on up.
It's incredible.
Okay, have I mentioned everything about that?
You've done it.
Yes. Okay. Whoops.
Okay, so the next key practice during Kapha season is to get moving, because Kapha can be described as heavy and static. Those are qualities of Kapha. It can result in a sense of lethargy or a lack of motivation if not activated through movement. So ideally, you would utilize this practice by waking up just before the sun. As Kapha time, the Kapha time of day starts around 6 a.m. So if you can wake up just before that, you'll actually have more energy to get up and moving before the heaviness of Kapha time seeps in the later morning. And actually you might even notice if you sleep into the Kapha time of morning, which is 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So say you get up at 8 a.m., you might notice that your body is actually heavier, like physically harder to sit up in bed and get moving because we've moved into that Kapha time of day. So the easiest way to get up and moving is actually to wake up just before that, right around 6, a little bit before that, either with or just before the rising sun, will still be the Vata time of day, and it will be a little bit lighter and easier to get moving. So get moving by waking up just before the sun, and amp up your exercise routine a little bit in the spring. More vigorous exercising like jogging or cycling or dance will really help keep Kapha in balance.
I'm doing a morning dance party every day during spring.
Oh
you knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's really the way.
I'm jogging.
Right after dry brushing. Yeah.
I'm jogging and doing squats. Okay.
So great.
So by doing activities that are light, mobile, and quick, like dancing or jogging, even things that are a little bit rough, like jogging on the cement can be sort of rough. You want to be careful on your knees, but roughness is balancing for Kapha dosha. So these qualities in an activity can actually help you gather energy and momentum for your entire day, especially if you do it earlier in the morning. And that will prevent the experience of lethargy that can come from the heaviness and staticness of Kapha. And just to note, exercise is important for all 3 doshas. It improves lymph flow, just like dry brushing does. It also supports circulation. And in Ayurveda, we would just say the approach to exercise and really to everything is moderate. So just like, don't overdo it. Jog and dance and move in a way that feels good for you and that feels activating, but don't push yourself just because you think Ayurveda is telling you to do something extreme. We're really not about extreme. So find that happy medium of a type of movement that feels activating for you without being fanatic.
Yes. That's great.
And also, exercise can really help move stagnancy within the body also, which supports digestion and elimination, which are things that can both slow down during Kapha season. And this is also why we recommend detoxifying with a khichdi cleanse, which is something we'll get into in a bit. But a khichdi cleanse is another way to get things moving in your body.
Yes. So great. Okay, and then the third key practice is to stay engaged. So it's not only these physical practices of warming up and getting moving, but there's also a mental component with Kapha where the mind could get a little bit heavy or like a cloudy brain or something like that. And so one of the ways to keep yourself sharp and keep your intellect on point is to stay engaged, right? So one of the ways to do that is to not sleep during the day. Something that can be we call it kapha provoking or kapha imbalancing, can be to sleep too much during the day. So if you're a person like myself who likes a 20-minute maximum nap to recharge in the afternoon, that is okay. But don't make it any longer than 20 minutes. Absolutely. And don't make it right after you eat. Make sure that there's plenty of time for you to digest. And otherwise, no sleeping during the day, no long naps in springtime.
If you ever read direct translations of the Ayurvedic texts, day sleep is the cause of like
everything.
So many imbalances. And what they mean is like having your sleep schedule be really off or taking prolonged naps during the day. But it's sort of a funny thing.
That's
so 20-minute nap, great. Day sleep can really
throw you off, which also means, and Molly already mentioned this, but waking up with or before the sun. So not sleeping in super late would also be considered day sleep, which would also provoke your kapha and really exacerbate some of these kapha conditions that can show up in springtime. Another way to stay engaged is just to incorporate state changes into your daily routine. So if you are someone who gets really set in something, or you sit down and you're working all day, or you find yourself lounging all day, hopefully you're staying more engaged in that, but incorporating state changes. So making sure that you're going on a walk or two each day, or you get up to stretch, or you get up to just move around the house and cook something between.
Make your ginger tea.
Yeah, just making sure to incorporate intentionally different state changes. So like Molly and I will be like, oh, halfway through our workday, we're going to walk and meet each other halfway to like hand off the camera or something like that. And it's an intentional choice to walk, to just like get a little state
because
change
otherwise you can get sort of caught in that like slow stagnation of kapha without even realizing it. So this is a way to prevent that by just keeping yourself moving in sort of an ongoing way.
Yep. And now that I'm thinking about that, that seems sort of like a physical practice, but back to the mental agility practices.
I mean,
it's like an intentionality too, where you're choosing your schedule specifically. But to keep your mind active and stimulated, and also to use Kapha's enhanced memory right now during springtime, this is a great time to be learning something, engaging with content, like studying, working on mentally engaging activities. Again, Kapha supports long-term memory. So if you have something that you want to be studying and memorizing, now is a really great time to leverage that. And connect deeply with wisdom that you've been wanting to connect with, whatever that may be, maybe Ayurveda.
And just speaking to that like state change component and how it affects the mind, I find that if I'm feeling like a dullness or just like a heaviness or a cloudiness in my mind, and I just take a walk around the block, I can actually come back with a lot more clarity. So the state change will help sort of reset and reactivate your mind so that you can get back to what you need to do.
That mental agility piece.
Mental agility.
And just limiting time that you are. So like spending time watching TV, for example, or like marathoning Netflix or whatever, these activities that really allow our minds to completely check out are going to be kapha provoking mentally. So just increasing a heaviness and a static energy where we're not having to engage is going to increase kapha during this time. So stay engaged by keeping your mind really activated and pointed on certain things, whatever interests you right now.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Khichdi cleanse. We have one that we've curated called the Revitalized Khichdi Cleanse, and that's what we're basing this presentation off of today. It's something that we've really worked out from our own experience Khichdi cleansing, from our time in school, from our time doing Panchakarma, and with clients as well, and we've sort of worked it into what we believe is really effective for Khichdi cleanse. We're excited to chat with you about it. So if you haven't heard of Khichdi before, let me tell you what it is. It's basically it's basically a mono meal. So that means during the Khichdi cleanse, you're going to eat the same thing every day for 3 to 5 days. And the thing that you're eating is a really delicious porridge of basmati rice, yellow split mung, ghee, which is like Ayurvedic clarified butter, and spices. And it's really special because it's a super classical recipe, and it's a very healing dish that is excellent for removing toxins known as ama from the body. And it also helps rejuvenate the cells in the body, which is something we really need during Kapha season, that sort of life, bringing things back to life. And it's super nourishing, and it's also very easy to digest. So sometimes people want to do a detox that's like a lot of raw food or a lot of smoothies or things like that, which can actually be harder on digestion. And the great thing about Khichdi is that it's nourishing, and it really is easy to digest, absorb, and assimilate. So you're not going to be super exhausted. You're actually going to be energized and nourished while you eat it. It's smooth and warming, so it gets the digestive system moving, as we talked about. And it also, doing a Khichdi cleanse also gives you the opportunity to cultivate hunger, because you're not really, you're not snacking. You're just doing this mono diet, eating Khichdi for all of your meals in a day and not eating in between. And cultivating hunger helps cultivate digestive fire and heat in the body, which gives you like a little mini fast that is essential for supporting your gut and giving yourself a little reboot. So as I mentioned, yeah, it supports Agni, and supporting your digestive fire will help you feel more light, clear, and energized this spring. And that is really what a Khichdi cleanse is about, and why it's so balancing during Kapha season in particular. If you haven't heard us talk about Agni or digestive fire, it's a really key concept in Ayurveda, because all wellness stems from how your digestive system is doing. And chances are, if you're having comfortable digestion and easy, regular bowel movements, then you're probably feeling pretty good in other areas of your life. And then you might notice other times that you're feeling congested, or you're having skin breakouts, other things like that, and your digestion is off. And those other imbalances probably stemmed from your gut. So a Khichdi cleanse is a real important way to get to the root of the deepest part of your wellness, and to bring yourself back on track in a way that will ripple out into other parts of your body. If digestion is strong and healthy and burning steadily, your cells are nourished, and damaging toxins are going to be prevented from building up in your body.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that toxins, which we call ama in Ayurveda or in Sanskrit, share the same qualities as kapha. So toxins in the body are this heavy, dense, sticky, white substance that can build up and actually break down cellular communication and cause all these crazy problems in the body. It's actually the root of disease. Because toxins share the same qualities as kapha, springtime becomes a very important time to cleanse them. And it's also sort of like, you just think about spring cleaning and like, clearing out the cobwebs after a long winter, or, it's almost like built into our culture, this like spring cleaning concept. And that's not without good reason, actually, according to the ancient text.
And if you want to learn more about toxins, ama, and how they build up, and get into the nitty-gritty of that, Sierra has recorded a webinar on ama, and you can find that on our website under virtual experiences. Go back and check it out.
cultivatebalance.com.
cultivatebalance.com.
In case you find this floating out there in the world.
Other benefits to a Khichdi cleanse include just rejuvenation of the body's cells, which I mentioned, deep nourishment of your body's tissues, and overall health and well-being. Because basically, if you can nourish your digestive system in the easiest way possible, then it doesn't take so much energy to absorb and assimilate and get it into your tissues. And that means that other bodily processes are then given more energy to do their work, their healing, their cleansing. So that's another component of why we Khichdi cleanse. It gives our digestive system a break, so that energy that would otherwise go toward digestion can be dispersed throughout the body to optimize healing overall.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike other detoxes, khichdi is warm and comforting and just like so nourishing and easy to digest. It just like
doesn't feel like
feels
torture
good.
to
It
do
doesn't feel like torture.
We never torture ourselves.
That's true.
We don't want you to either. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So the great thing is that a khichdi cleanse can be done from home for very reasonable cost. And just a shout out to Laura for this beautiful photo. This photo is by Laura Bartzak. It's a 35 millimeter incredible photo that we love so much.
I love it.
And okay, so to prepare for your khichdi cleanse, you want to basically plan it. You want to plan a few weeks in advance. You'll plan on doing a 3 to 5 day cleanse where you'll eat only khichdi, the porridge that Molly already described, and you'll do that in late May or early June if you're in Colorado. And basically the idea is to have it coincide more or less with the last snow, which of course is unpredictable, especially here in Colorado, but late May, early June. And you want to give yourself at least 1 week before your cleanse to really start to clean up your diet and start to implement a few practices. But even before that, ideally 21 days before. So if you're starting to think about late May or early June, you're going to start now. You'll start with the basic balance challenge, which is also on our website, cultivatebalance.com. It is our free mini course, and it's basically a 21-day opportunity to integrate 4 very simple practices into your life that are going to make a big difference. And it's a great way to sort of set the stage and prepare yourself for that khichdi cleanse. And the first practice that you would implement is to wake up and take 3 deep breaths upon waking. So that's just just a clearing and balancing practice that you can get into. It's super simple, but it starts to create that mentality of intentionality as you start to prepare yourself to actually go deep with yourself during the khichdi cleanse. Also, drinking lemon honey water before you eat breakfast every day is going to be, it's one of our favorite practices because it lights up Agni, gets your digestive system activated, and it's going to help clear out toxins and hydrate you first thing in the morning. So again, a really, really important step to getting your body functioning so that you can prepare for that khichdi cleanse. And then, as always, emphasizing warm cooked food in your diet, something that you always want to be doing, but start to pay extra attention to that 21 days before you get into your khichdi cleanse. And then also before you go to bed, practicing another form of mindfulness, intentionality, getting in touch with your body and allowing yourself to get calm and unwind before bed is to lay down and put your legs up the wall for 10 minutes. Will help you sleep better and feel like you're, again, just tuning in so that you're cultivating an intentionality that's going to serve you well during your khichdi cleanse. So then, as I mentioned, about 1 week before you start your khichdi cleanse, you would want to remove any sort of toxins or difficult to digest things from your diet. So that's like caffeine, alcohol, gluten, dairy, sugar, anything that's like really strongly contributing to toxins building up in your system. You'll notice that several of those, like gluten and dairy and sugar, are all very kapha provoking or ama forming substances. So you're sort of giving your body a jump start at clearing that stuff out before you do the more heavy hitter khichdi cleanse. That'll actually make it a bit more easeful when you begin.
And it'll make it more effective.
It'll make it more effective.
Yeah.
Yes. And so during that time, I said what not to eat, but really you just want to be focusing on whole grains, fruits, vegetables, cooked foods, and proteins. And then you also want to keep in mind to set up your physical and emotional space. So make sure that you're letting anyone that you live with know that you're going to be doing this cleanse and asking them to support you in that. So that might mean, asking them to not be like, to hold off on ordering, your favorite pizza on the 3 to 5 days that you're cleansing, and just help asking them to hold space with you. And you might even like think about what in your space could be beautified, because ideally you're going to be going a little bit more inward during the cleanse. So you're going to be spending more time at home. How can you set your home up to be more enjoyable for yourself? And
also, like, you might even consider like inviting your roommate or housemate or partner to participate in the
Totally.
cleanse with you, to just like be in that experience with someone together and feel really supported. You'll still want to take your own space and have your own processing and downtime, but that's another way to prepare and make the cleanse more enjoyable or connected.
Yes, totally. And then the last way that you will prepare for the Khichdi cleanse is to grocery shop. So there's a number of ingredients that you'll need to procure before you begin the cleanse. And as I mentioned, these are all very affordable and easy to obtain. But the main ingredients being basmati rice, the yellow split mung beans. Do you go into this in a second? I don't think you do, actually.
Just a little.
And then spices, cumin, coriander, fennel, turmeric, ginger. I'm saying these all pretty quickly. If you're here live with us right now, we're going to send it to you. And then if you're not, you can go to our website, cultivatebalance.com, and under products, there is actually a download called the Revitalized Khichdi Cleanse, and you can get your copy with all of this laid out in super, super detail for $12. So you'll purchase all of those ingredients ahead of time, and so that you have everything ready to go as soon as you begin your cleanse.
Okay, so that was all preparation for the cleanse. Now let's talk about what you're going to do during the cleanse itself. You're going to set aside 3 to 5 days. 5 days is great if you have it. If you have 3 days, do that. That's also going to be great and very effective. So what you're going to do for those 3 to 5 days is eat a small bowl of khichdi for every meal. And again, you're going to find step-by-step instructions to making khichdi in the Revitalized Khichdi Cleanse download, which you can find on our website, cultivatebalance.com.
Basically, really good at marketing ourselves here. Okay.
We are. Yeah, Sierra already mentioned you're going to combine mung beans and rice and spices and ghee. You're going to cook it all together and eat that for your 3 meals. But it's important to create a sense of hunger. So when I say small bowls of khichdi, I mean about the amount that you could hold in 2 hands cupped together. We call this an anjali in Ayurveda. And if you eat too much khichdi on a khichdi cleanse, you're going to provoke kapha. You're going to do the opposite of what you're trying to do. So it's very important that before each of your 3 meals that you're feeling a real sensation of hunger. That means there's a fire, there's a heat inside of your body that's going to be really effective at digesting, absorbing, and assimilating your khichdi. So cultivate hunger, avoid snacking in between meals, and eat small bowls of khichdi. Okay. And then during this time, you're going to really, you're really just going to be eating khichdi, but specifically avoid cold drinks and cold food, excessive like oily or fried foods, meat, seafood, sugar, wheat, dairy, fermented foods, things that are really salty or really spicy or really sour, alcohol, caffeine, and stimulants. All of those things that I just mentioned are going to inhibit your body's ability to really effectively cleanse. It's only 3 to 5 days, so just commit to it. Keep it really simple, and it will be very worth your while if you can do that. And if you just find that you cannot stand to eat khichdi for 3 meals a day, in the Revitalized Khichdi Cleanse guide, we do have a couple alternative meal suggestions of just like some whole vegetables, cooked vegetables, and things like that you could substitute in that would support effective cleansing as well. But if you can stick to khichdi for your 3 meals, for your 3 to 5 days, that is the goal. But you want to find a way to do this cleanse that feels really supportive to your needs and your experience.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so when it comes to Ayurveda, right, very holistic science, it's not just about what you're eating, but it's also about how you're eating, and it being a very mindful process. So the more you can engage mindfully with everything you do in your life and what you're doing specifically for your wellness, the better the results will be. So one of the big things with that is to sit down and relax to eat. So all the time, but also especially when you're doing a khichdi cleanse, you don't want to be like eating on the go, eating in your car, eating while running out the door, eating like really not even eating while watching television. Like it's, you want to sit down and focus on what you're eating, and you want the environment hopefully to be peaceful. So how can you cultivate a peaceful environment in which you can enjoy your khichdi meal?
And this goes back to what Sierra said about preparing for your cleanse by setting up your space and by communicating with the people who live in your house and let them know, like, I'm doing something very intentional right now. Can we try to keep the space a little more quiet, a little more peaceful, a little more clean? And that surrounding experience will support you to be able to eat more mindfully and be more present when you are enjoying your khichdi.
And it's like, you keep in mind, you're not just eliminating physical toxins. This is also, there's a component of eliminating emotional and spiritual toxins. So this is a real opportunity to engage in it on that level. And so also taking time to pause and express gratitude for what you're eating, the nourishment in front of you and what it took to get that nourishment there. Eating slowly, chewing thoroughly, knowing that this moment of nourishing your body and so mindfully is a profound act of self-love. So you get to really take that in with your whole being. And then after you eat, you want to either take a walk, like a mild, gentle walk, go outside, get some sunshine, get that bipedal movement to support the digestive process. Or you can sit in Thunderbolt Pose. So that's basically sitting kind of on your knees with your heels in your bum, sitting on your heels, essentially. I believe it hits some pressure points that help with digestion, right? And just gets you into a good position to make sure that things can flow down.
And it also decreases circulation to your legs. So there's actually more blood flow happening in your digestive system to activate digestion.
Great. Yeah. And then again, as Molly was mentioning, mindfully cultivating a sense of hunger and igniting that agni by waiting at least 4 hours between each meal. So you're not like mindlessly snacking throughout the day. You're actually making a conscious choice every time you decide to consume food.
And that's another component of setting up a supportive environment, because you might notice yourself getting hungry and wanting to snack in between your khichdi meals. And if someone in your home is eating your favorite snack or is snacking a lot, it might be sort of triggering or disorienting for you. So just keep in mind things that might arise and really try and set yourself up for success so that you can move through your cleanse with relative ease.
Yes. And then hydrating, of course, is an important part of nourishing yourself mindfully. You want to be enjoying at least 40 ounces a day of some warm beverage during your khichdi cleanse. So whether that's ginger tea or cumin, coriander, fennel tea, which is one of our favorite digestive teas. Again, the recipe for that will be in that Revitalized Khichdi Cleanse handout. The best way to hydrate is between meals, not during. So if you need to hydrate during your meals, you can take small sips of a warm beverage, but really do the majority of your hydration between the meals so as to not dilute your digestive juices. And yes, that's how to eat mindfully.
That is. Okay, let's chat about supportive self-care practices that you can be filling into other parts of your day while you're also doing the khichdi cleanse. So the first is an herb that you can take. It's called Triphala. You've probably heard us talk about it so many times because we just love it. It's an Ayurvedic, it's not actually a single herb, it's a formulation of 3 herbs that blend together so beautifully. 3 fruits, haritaki, amalaki, and bibitaki, and each one actually corresponds with the different doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha. So that makes Triphala a tridoshic formula or something that is balancing to all 3 doshas. So anyone can take it. It's very safe. My favorite thing about it is that it's not only cleansing, but it's also nourishing or rejuvenating. Many or most cleansing herbs you wouldn't actually want to take for that long because they start to get rough on your system and sort of dry you out. Whereas Triphala will continue to rejuvenate your body as it's cleansing. So it has this sort of like self-balancing mechanism to where it's actually safe to take for an ongoing period of time. And yeah, very cleansing, very rejuvenating, great for the digestive tract. And the other incredible thing about it is that you can take it for constipation or for diarrhea, basically. Some herbs are only binding or only softening to the stools, whereas Triphala, you can dose it yourself. So I'll elaborate on that. If you're a Vata type constitution, for example, and you're more prone to constipation or drier stools, you would take a larger dose of Triphala. And I'm talking about Triphala in powdered form. So you would take about a half teaspoon of Triphala or more. And if you're prone to looser stools, more Pitta type bowel movements, you're going to take a lower dose, like an eighth to a quarter teaspoon of Triphala daily. You can take it for either dosage. You'll take it with warm water and a little bit of honey sometime after dinner before bed. And that will really support your body's elimination the following day. And it'll be very cleansing. It's very great for the colon, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So Triphala, that just so great. A great thing to take during a cleanse, a great thing to take ongoing. Other just general self-care practices that you can be integrating into your daily routine as you're cleansing would be tongue scraping, which is just like a metal U that you can use to cleanse your tongue. Oil pulling, swishing like coconut oil or sesame oil in your mouth for 15 to 20 minutes to pull toxins out of the gums, cleanse the teeth, cleanse the mouth. In Ayurveda, digestion really begins on the tongue. So oral health is important. That's why we talk about scraping the tongue, and that's why we talk about oil pulling. You can find blogs about both of these topics on our website for more information. Another self-care practice that is great during a cleanse is something Sierra already mentioned, legs up the wall. So before bed, you scoot your glutes up to the wall, you lay back, you spiral your feet up. And it's a really great reset for the nervous system, for the mind. It decreases stress. It's good for the brain waves. And it also supports circulation. It brings more circulation to the mind in a way that is very relaxing, and that will ease you into a peaceful night's sleep. A good night's sleep will allow you to wake up a little bit earlier and really start your day with balancing Kapha in mind. Another great practice for Kapha especially, and things that might arise during Kapha season like mucus and congestion and allergies, is the practice of Neti, nasal rinse. So using a Neti pot, as you can see in the slide here, with warm salt water, running it through one nasal passage and out the other. And then,
oh, sorry, I was just going to say, we also just posted a blog about that.
Say it.
It's under Ayurvedic lifestyle, and that one also goes into great detail about exactly how to do this, followed by a nasal drying series, which is actually equally important because you don't want to leave that water in your nose. That's sort of a step that gets missed in a lot of like Western mentality, but that can create a breeding ground for bacteria and kind of enhance actually sinus congestion. So on the blog, you'll find.
And if you are doing Neti, get a Neti pot and not the squeeze bottle. The squeeze bottle is way too forceful, and it can bring water up farther into your nasal passage than is going to be easy to get out. And that's not what you want. You want something gentle, warm water, not in a plastic container. Okay. Self-oil massage is another self-care practice that you can be doing during your Khichdi cleanse. It's called Abhyanga, and you've probably heard us talk about this a lot, but similar to the dry brushing, you're going to take an oil, something like sesame oil or sunflower oil are both going to be good for Kapha. A blend, half and half of the two, is a really nice option. But you'll want to oil massage the body. Ideally, well, in a perfect world, you would dry brush and then oil massage and then take a hot shower, and the heat will help the oil penetrate into the skin, and it will be very nourishing, and it actually helps lubricate the bodily channels so that toxins can move out more readily. So just like with the dry brushing, same idea, long strokes on the bone, circular strokes on the joint, moving toward the heart, and you're just massaging oil into your entire body. You can get into the head, the ears, in between the toes, do the whole thing, digestive system. And lastly, another great self-care practice during a cleanse is to take time for daily reflection and journaling, to really be present with yourself. As Sierra mentioned, like, you're not just cleansing the body, you can be cleansing the spirit and your emotional being. There's more subtle experiences that can arise during a physical cleanse. You know, emotions can get sort of lodged in the body. So when we cleanse toxins and we really encourage movement within our bodies, we can actually move emotions up and out also. And so it's a really potent opportunity to journal and notice what's coming up and out and what you're releasing and what you're learning about yourself during this time. Because a lot can be happening on the subtle level, and you might not notice it until you sit down and take a moment to check in.
Yeah.
And
it's also mental engagement as well.
Yes.
It's like soothing kapha just by staying engaged with your own experience.
Yes, exactly. And a part of journaling and of the sort of more subtle components of wellness that we always love to tap into is affirmations. So Sierra prompted you to think of an affirmation early on. And we have some recommendations. If you didn't think of one, or if you want another one to bring in during kapha season, you could try, I am motivated, which is a balancing energy to the heaviness of kapha when it gets out of balance. You could also say to yourself, I am resilient, which is one of the strengths of kapha if you want to harness that energy during kapha season. And when you're doing your journaling daily, you can start by just writing your own affirmation or one of these. I am motivated. I am resilient. Whatever energy you need to tap into, you have that opportunity when you're journaling, and you have the opportunity to be affirming yourself throughout the experience daily, writing it down, or just repeating to yourself when you're cooking your khichdi. I'm resilient. I'm resilient. I'm resilient.
Infusing that intention into your nourishment as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool because when you incorporate all of these self-care practices, this khichdi cleanse almost becomes like a mini or like a panchakarma light. So if you've heard of panchakarma, which is the ancient deep cleansing system of Ayurveda, and panchakarma is a little tricky because it usually requires like pulling 10 days out of your life and just completely focusing only on panchakarma, which is
really about like pulling months, like 2 months out of your life, because there's a long preparation.
Yeah. And then 10 days of like not even engaging with the world. Or at least 7.
You're like not supposed to read books during panchakarma if you're like really strict
big
about
time.
It's wild.
Yeah. So what's great is that when you can sort of take the khichdi cleanse to the next level by incorporating these practices that will deepen the experience, that will encourage more toxins to exit your body,
physical and mental.
Yes, exactly. So it's a really great way to get some of the benefits of the deeper panchakarma but like in an accessible way, something you can incorporate into your life as it is right now with just like these small shifts. So
yes.
Okay. So this is a topic that I feel very passionate about, is the post cleanse.
Yeah. Tell them why.
It really, it's tricky because like, I always think of this roommate that I had in college who he would do these really extreme cleanses, like water cleanse or something. And then he would go off of the cleanse and he'd be like, well, I'm done with my cleanse today. So he would order like a pizza with a gallon of milk and like a tray of cookies. And it was really, really intense.
That's so crazy.
It was really intense. And I to this day think back on what a shock to his system that must have been, and all of the things that he may have improved by doing whatever sort of cleanse he was doing were just completely slingshotted in the other direction. Yeah. So the moral of the story being that it is vital that you pay as much attention to the post cleanse days as you do to the lead up and to the actual cleanse itself.
Yes.
And one, your digestive tract is going to be more sensitive than it ever has been. It's going to actually be in a really like the word I want to say is nascent state. It's just, it's like new, it's fresh, and you don't want to just inundate it with things that are really hard to digest again. The other really, really important takeaway, something I have experienced and people close to me have experienced, is this idea that what you incorporate into your diet right after the cleanse are the things that you are going to start to crave. And I just cannot emphasize this enough. Like, if you get right into eating sugar or dairy or gluten immediately after your cleanse, you are going to become a monster for this.
I did one of my first cleanses in India several years ago. It was like sort of a panchakarma type thing. And my system was totally reset. I felt really good. I felt really light, really clear. The next day, it was someone's birthday, and they like had a cake made, and it was this whole thing. And I was like, oh, I should just eat some of this. And I have never craved sugar harder in my life than when I ate cake. It became the thing that my body craved the most, versus if I would have eaten vegetables and other khichdi and other things, I would have craved those things. And then I could have introduced cake later in a way that was reasonable. I didn't even eat a crazy amount of cake, but it was that became the thing that my body asked for.
It's very, very real. Do your best to avoid in the following days after your cleanse sugar, gluten, dairy products, even fermented foods. You can have just a little bit, but don't overdo it. Processed or fried foods, excessive amounts of any like spicy or which we call pungent, which is like garlic, even garlic and onions and things like that. And then certainly like alcohol and things like that. You want to really, really go easy on your system. Coffee, absolutely, or any other stimulants. And like Molly said, this is actually an opportunity to get your body excited about things that are going to be great for you. So vegetables, whole grains, proteins, things like that you want to eat to set yourself up for real success. And you can, and we would recommend introducing foods gradually and noticing what causes a condition, what causes a flare up of anything, and just being really mindful as you reintroduce foods is going to be really,
especially like more triggering foods like cheese, you do that down the line. Or if there's like a vegetable that you think might cause a reaction in your body, like tomato nightshades, for example, bring them in and notice. Don't introduce a bunch of things at once if you're trying to figure out what your food triggers might be. This is an opportunity to do it really slowly.
And then the other thing is just to remember to always be cooking your food even post cleanse, and to be using plenty of spices. So really any spice you can imagine, use it. So that is basically the khichdi cleanse. As we mentioned, you can find this download, cultivatebalance.com, and then under products, and then under what's called goodness guides, the revitalized khichdi cleanse is there, and it's $12 to get all of that information completely laid out for you.
So beautifully organized. And so
we do say so ourselves. And yes, we do. And it'll give you like the shopping lists and, every detail, the recipe of how to make
self-care routine items.
It's like a 20-page document or something like that. So it's super valuable resource.
So let's just do a little recap. To really enjoy Kapha season, you want to balance the qualities that are most likely to go out of balance and harness the strengths of Kapha that are available to you. So to do that, warm up. Eat more digestive spices, ginger tea, get some sunlight, dry brush, get active, rise early, do a little more vigorous exercise like jogging or dance or cycling, and activate your digestive system with something like a khichdi cleanse. And also stay engaged, stimulate your mind mentally, study, just stay engaged and keep that momentum going to prevent brain fog. And then lastly, do a khichdi cleanse to detoxify your cells, eliminate toxins, and really stimulate digestion. And just a recap on the khichdi cleanse component, you want to give yourself about a week to prepare and start cleaning up your diet before the khichdi cleanse. You want to give yourself 3 to 5 days to do the cleanse itself. And then you want to give yourself at least a week after the khichdi cleanse to reintroduce foods and to really emphasize eating the foods that you want to crave.
Yes. Okay, so if you have the worksheet in front of you, now is a great time to just sort of look at that and think about it for just a minute. And you'll see on the second page, there's an opportunity to start to outline a new daily routine for yourself. And you can start to think about some of the practices that we've talked about in this workshop and start to plug them in your morning, in your midday, and in your afternoon. And at the very least, think of three core practices, think of three core practices that you want to integrate right now, knowing that the main things are to warm up, get active, and stay engaged. So how can you do that in your own life? You could use these three items that we've listed right here. So moving your body more, doing more exercise, getting up and walking after lunch, doing that state change that we talked about if you're during your work day. Then also thinking about dry brushing. It's a really quick, easy, fun, feel good practice that gets you activated, gets you warmed up, gets things moving in your system. And then drinking ginger tea is another really simple one to integrate in the springtime because it's going to activate that agni, clear out the toxins, and get things moving in terms of like hydration and elimination and all that good stuff. So think about your daily routine, start to plug some things in that you think are reasonable, accessible goals for you. And then once you've done that, you might just, think about something that you'd like to release. So what is a habit or a craving or something that you have in your life that you're like, that actually might be contributing to some kapha provocation, whether that's like eating ice cream at night on the couch or
watching TV while you eat lunch.
Yeah. Or what else? Just general sort of heavy activities. Anything you can think of that might be
sleeping in really late, not exercising or moving your body very much.
So what is something that you are ready to just make an intentional choice around transforming, and jot that down on the line that says, I am letting go of, and just invite yourself to actually let go of that right now, or set the intention to let go of that. And then take a few minutes to think about what barriers might come up for you in your daily life around some of the intentions that you just set around your daily routine. So the things that are in the boxes above, and also if there's any barriers that show up to you letting go of something. So if you set an intention to take a 15-minute walk after you eat your lunch during the day to do that state change and to get your digestive system moving, and you're like, well, I guess one of the barriers is that I'm supposed to talk to my boss at 1 p.m. And I usually run up against that. So that's a barrier to going on a nice little stroll. So what can you do to overcome that barrier, right? Maybe it's take your lunch break a little earlier. Maybe it's renegotiate your talk with your boss at 1 p.m. What sort of solution can you come up with right now to actually make that step be a bit more accessible in your life right now?
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
And then if you didn't already write an affirmation, go back and think about what are some of those qualities that are available to us, some of the qualities of kapha thriving in springtime. So that's, I am grounded, I am resilient, I am, what am I forgetting? We like to say, I am juicy, I am vital, I am motivated, I am loving, I am compassionate. These are all qualities of kapha thriving.
Right.
So if you have the worksheet in front of you, you can take a minute to write down something that you want to cultivate more of in your life that's associated with this luscious kapha time of year.
Yes.
So again, if you don't have that worksheet, you can find it on our website on the Get Activated webinar page. So if you go under virtual experiences, you'll be able to find where that will be low down on the page, and you just pop your email address in and it'll take you to the page that'll have a replay of this as well as the worksheet, and also links to other things that are helpful like the Revitalize Kitchery Cleanse, etc. So
yes. And we just want to remind you about the opportunity to learn more about Ayurveda in a real deep committed and exciting way through the art of Ayurveda, which I mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar when we talked about some of the more foundational concepts. And we just want to tell you a little bit about what is available to you in that online course, The Art of Ayurveda. The first, it's actually 3 parts. It's very, oh, yes, there it is. It's very comprehensive. So the first part, Elements of Wellness, really gets into the doshas and the qualities that describe the doshas and how disease manifests, the stages of disease and how to prevent it. The second part gets into digestion and elimination of toxins. So related to some of the things we've been talking about today, and more like deep concepts on how that happened, how you can support and optimize digestion, what to eat, what to cook, what spices to use. We get into all of that in the second part of the course. And then in part 3, we get into more of the lifestyle resilience component, spiritual resilience, but also routines, self-care, subtle therapies, meditation. That's one of the most amazing things about Ayurveda, is it really is so holistic. It's not just your body. It's not just the physical, but it's the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and those things really start to come into play in the third part of this course. And we spent like a year of our lives writing it, and just really want to make the wisdom of Ayurveda accessible. So if that excites you, The Art of Ayurveda is probably for you. Check it out. You can email us. You can email molly@cultivatebalance.com if you want more information or more support around that.
And you can also go, the URL is there. It's learn.cultivatebalance.com, and you'll be able to, that's our educational platform, and you'll be able to see the Art of Ayurveda on there and register directly from there. But yeah, it's got 18 really amazing, engaging modules. There's access to a private Facebook group where Molly and I are in there all the time answering questions and engaging with people, and there's community. There's all sorts of downloadable recipes, remedies, guides, checklists, all the things you need to like really incorporate Ayurveda into your life.
It's very fun.
All kinds of tools. And then at the end, you get a certificate of completion in the Art of Ayurveda. So
you do.
The whole class is taught by the 2 of us, and we are so honored, as we mentioned, to get to be stewards of this wisdom in this lifetime. So we hope you'll join us.
We're so honored to support you in caring for yourself so that you can really show up for your community and your family. You know, that is the core of all of this for us. And thank you so much for being with us today. We hope to connect with you in the future.
Definitely. Yes. Your wellness matters for the world. So thank you for showing up. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to pop one in the chat box now. And otherwise, you can email us afterwards. And we are so grateful to you. Let's see.
Screen share.